Hi, this is Dan Smith of DPS Legal Counsel. Welcome to today's video. I'm going to be talking today about succession planning and exit strategies for physicians who are looking to sell their practices and retire. Now, if you're in practice by yourself, exit planning or succession planning upon retirement can be a challenge because you don't have an associated physician employed by your practice who's there to be a potential buyer for your practice. So you're going to have to go out and start looking for potential candidates for the purchase of your practice. And that's something that you really should do because there's value in your practice. Not only the hard value of assets such as fixtures, furniture, and equipment, but also just the goodwill you've built up in your practice over time and over the years. And you don't want that to go to waste by just walking away from your practice, riding off into the sunset and retiring. You want to get some value for your practice. And so you need to start looking around, if you are in practice by yourself, for potential candidates to buy your practice. And you may need to get in touch with a consultant who specializes in that area of helping doctors locate potential candidates for purchases of physician practices. Once you have found a candidate or maybe several candidates that you want to talk to about potentially selling your practice, and perhaps once you've sort of zeroed in on one particular candidate and are ready to start the process of documenting this transaction, probably one of the very first steps you need to do at that point is to enter into a letter of intent with the prospective purchaser of your practice. Essentially, what a letter of intent is a very brief document. Typically, it's in letter form, sent from the selling doctor to the buying doctor, that basically outlines what the very skeletal terms of the deal might be. I'm going to sell you my practice for X amount of dollars. We're going to sell it the assets, or I'm going to sell you the membership interest in my LLC or the stock in my corporation. It's going to be what the assets are fixtures, furniture, equipment. I may or may not, depending on what the decision is, sell the accounts receivable, or I may retain the accounts receivable. Purchase price is going to be X. It's going to be paid all at closing, or it's going to be paid over time through a promissory note, whatever. You get the sense of this. You basically want to spell out sort of the terms that you're looking for in the deal and that you've kind of agreed upon verbally with your potential candidate. You want to put that down in writing. This is essentially going to act as the letter of intent is going to act as a template for actually drafting the real agreements, the contract that's going to be signed between the parties to make the sale. Letters of intent typically will have provisions allowing the buyer some time to do due diligence, to look at books and records and sort of get comfortable with the practice, and it will almost always provide that the letter of intent is non-binding except for typically the obligation to act in good faith and to provide maybe exclusivity during a particular period of time, so that the selling doctor doesn't go out and try to shop his practice to another buyer. But essentially, that's how you start a transaction: is you find a candidate, and then once you're comfortable with that candidate and can agree upon some very basic skeletal terms of a deal, you enter into a letter of intent. And from that point, the letter of intent can be used by your attorney, the selling doctor's attorney, to draft the selling documents, the agreement, whether it's an asset purchase agreement or it's a LLC membership or corporate stock purchase agreement. The letter of intent will serve as a go-by or a template for the deal. So that's essentially how you start on the process down the road of selling your practice to a potential buyer or a candidate to buy your practice if you're in practice by yourself. Step one, find a candidate, and that typically is going to require you to engage the services of a consultant or a consulting firm to help you locate a potential candidate. And then you want to start getting comfortable with that candidate, and when you're at the point where you you can start discussing deal points with that person and then put those down into a letter of intent, which again is non-binding except requires the parties to act in good faith. Typically, like I said, provides some period of exclusivity so that the selling doctor doesn't go out and try to do another deal with somebody else after they've signed the letter of intent. All right, I hope that helps. That's sort of a very brief discussion of some of the very beginning points of succession planning for doctors who are in practice by themselves. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch, and we'll see you next time.